In the last video, I talked about why your hip flexor problem is not from tightness, but it's from weakness. So I recommended to stop stretching your hip flexors anymore. Instead, I showed you a simple alternative, which is eccentric exercises. Before we move on, I'm going to add 1 minute explanation on why static stretching will fail to address your hip flexor problem. When you think of the squatting position and lifting something from the floor, your hip flexor muscle, psoas muscle, is being used in that action. So when you pick up something from the floor or stand back from a squatting position, you have to control your upper body weight using your hip flexor together with other muscles like glutes. So your muscle is being stretched out, but it's being used at the same time. So it's not the type of thing you can achieve with static stretching because you're not really using your muscles in static stretching action. Therefore, what I always recommend is stretching your muscle under loading, which is eccentric control. On top of that, we need to know sling movements to fix your hip flexor issues. Sling movement is a kinetic chain where a certain group of muscles work together and better. Anterior sling means front sling, and in anterior sling movement, you use your inside thigh muscle together with the opposite trunk muscle. A perfect example is walking. When you take a step forward with your right leg, you use the inside of the thigh muscle together with hip flexor and the opposite side of the trunk because you're actually rotating towards that right side, so doing that kind of action, right? So these muscles working together when you take a step with the right leg, and the opposite side can be used together when you take a step with your left leg. In fact, your hip flexor is not the exact part of the sling, but the adductor muscle, the inside of the thigh, is the part of the sling. However, since the hip flexor is attached on the inside of the thigh, it does hip adduction movement if it's shortening or contracting. So if this anterior sling, the connection between this inside of the thigh muscle, adductor muscle, and oblique muscle is strong, it will make this adductor muscle overactive and tight. And if it's tight, that brings your leg inwards. So if your leg goes in, that will put the hip flexor in a shortened position. And once it's in a shortened position, it's likely to get tight. That's why we want to decrease the sling action on the same side by releasing tension of this adductor muscle and oblique muscle. So let's get started. You can lie on your tummy with the foam roller underneath the muscle. You can bring your leg a bit higher, about 90 degrees, and just roll side to side for about 30 seconds. If you don't have a foam roller, you can use any object that you can apply pressure with on your muscles. So this is my rib cage, and then you put the ball around there and just push against the ground. Have your arm up and bend the other leg up like that as well, and just you expose that area towards the ball and just rolling side to side and going up and down as well, out to the side too, and you can go down as well. So basically this is my rib cage and this is my pelvis. In between those two bony areas, you just try to loosen up that area for about 30 seconds. Lastly, we want to work on the posterior sling. We've just loosened up this anterior sling connection, so we want to work on the opposite side to counteract against this strong connection. So let's say my right hip flexor is tight, so we've loosened up the adductors and left oblique muscle. So the opposite side will be right glutes and the left latissimus dorsi. So you can start with this simple one arm pull. Suck your tummy in, squeeze your glutes, and pull it with the left arm so that you're using that left side of your lats. And you can progress into this kind of dynamic motion. So one step forward as you activate your glutes and left latissimus dorsi. So squeeze your glute and pull it with your left hand. That will use the left side of the latissimus dorsi. And you can go like that. This is pretty light, so you can use like a cable machine in the gym. That'll be better. So engage your core and activate your glute. This sling movement is very important in any musculoskeletal issues in your body. And also you can stand on one leg and just doing this kind of one leg activity as well. So suck your tummy in, and as you kick back, you're activating your glutes, and then you're rotating to the other side to activate the latissimus dorsi. So I'm doing this action that will stretch out this muscle, anterior sling, and activate the other side. In fact, the best way to work with slings are to do more rotational movements in everyday activities like walking. Do more arm swings when you walk and rotate your upper body a bit more when you run. Of course, you need to engage your core, which will complete these sling movements. If you don't know how to activate your core, please see my another video, and I will see you next time. Cheers.